Great. Okay, here we are. Welcome, everyone. Okay, we made our way through,
B5.
wow, fantastic. Thank you. So Roman numeral two, letter B, number five. That was like a very dramatic class, right? We did cooking and serving warm food on Shabbat. Okay, great. You can all review in the video. So now, okay, now we're moving away from the category of the major category, the 39 major categories of forbidden labor in Shabbat, to this concept, "Tzol chatzecha v'daber davar," which I think is from Isaiah. Isaiah talks about Shabbat, and is that right? It's the Haftarah for Yom Kippur. Could be Isaiah 59. Yeah, very good. Excellent. Well done. All right. Excellent. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Very impressive. Okay. Um, so Isaiah, when he, sort of giving this prophetic elaboration on Shabbat, speaks about, like, adds these elements of a day in which we're not pursuing our own financial interests. We're not talking about our business interests. And so this is not one of the 39 categories of labor. This is not like, not sewing, weeping, pounding, okay, grinding. It's not one of these like core biblically prohibited forms of labor. It's a prophetic extension against talking in a normal way on Shabbat about okay, so there's again, about what yeah, so your speech should be different. Your speech not should be speaking about mundane things. Should not be speaking about business or politics or like whatever kind of your pursuits are that you would talk about during the work week. Your speech as well should be elevated and holy and tranquil. Um, there's a phrase in Yiddish, "Nicht Shabbos gerät," which means you shouldn't speak about this on Shabbos, which is what you say in Yiddish before you speak about something that you shouldn't say on Shabbos. So the joke is, like, man. Walks up to the judge. I remember he goes up to Shabbos morning. He says, "Nish Shabbos Geret. I'm looking to buy a new car." So I go, "Oh, Nish Shabbos Geret. I actually am selling my car." And then later on the afternoon, he says, "Oh, Nish Shabbos Geret. How much are you asking?" He says, "Nish Shabbos Geret. I'm asking $5,000. Shabbos Geret. It's not worth more than three." So and then after Shabbos, he's, "Okay, fine. I'll give you $2,500. That's my final offer." He says, "Oh, I sold it at Mincha already." So okay, anyway. Um, but okay, but that being said, you really should not. Okay, our speech should be different, and the Rambam, right? Gemara, Talmud writes about walking differently. Not to be rushing, walking in a tranquil way. Everything is taken care of, right? All of our needs. Did any of you listen to the Ezra Klein's podcast? He's a New York Times columnist. Okay, he is not his most recent episode. The one before that, he spoke about how for years and years and years, he's been trying to observe Shabbat, and he finds it challenging. And anyway, so finds it challenging because he doesn't do it with the community. So he's trying to do it by himself, which is really, really hard. Anyway, what he wants is to have meals with friends and family that are not dominated by the same types of conversations that take place during the week. Okay, and that I think is really achievable, but it does take a kind of like elevated consciousness and intentionality about how we speak and what we speak about. The Zohar, the old mystical Jewish text, writes about if you speak about mundane things on Shabbat, like your words themselves, like kind of rise up and interfere in the celestial realm with all of the unification that's supposed to happen on Shabbat. So it's like you're interfering in a spiritual level, like the power of your speech is such that it can really harm, I don't know, like so on the spiritual plane, what's supposed to happen on that day, even beyond whatever it does to your own experience of the day. Um, okay, number seven. So Ramban Nachmanides writes that in Leviticus, when the Torah uses the phrase Shabbaton to talk about a restful day, Ramban Nachmanides says that this means that in addition to the 39 categories of labor, there is a separate positive Torah obligation that Shabbat should be a restful and tranquil day. Because he notes you could move furniture from your basement to your attic, And so long as you're not carrying it from a private domain to a public domain, you have not violated the biblical prohibition of carrying. You could, right, move your furniture around your house. What are you not? You're not violating, right? Not violating any of the 39 categories of labor if you're schlepping furniture from place to place inside your house. But that is a toilsome kind of endeavor, and that is therefore would be a violation of the spirit of the day. But more than the spirit of the day, there's a positive biblical commandment that the day should be a tranquil and restful day. And so, beyond the 39 categories of labor, we also have to be concerned about tircha, about strain, about exerting ourselves physically on Shabbat so that the day should be restful. This gets into the question of, kind of sports on Shabbat, which, from the perspective of strain and tircha would be problematic. The lenient argument would be, well, if you're just sort of exuberantly like running, jumping, you're having fun and not as opposed to like toilsome, activity, even though you like might break a sweat if you're like exercising vigorously. I don't know. I'd say like I think there's a lenient argument can be made if you're really enjoying yourself as opposed to like I don't really enjoy it, but I know I should, and that like that. Okay. And for me, I think another thing to consider. I would not recommend any. I don't know. I mean, I feel I understand some people like just their own sense of well-being requires them to like if they don't exercise, they just feel really agitated and anxious and unwell. So I want to like sort of honor that. But for me, like a boundary I maintain is like any activity that I wouldn't be able to do in my Shabbos clothes, in my nice clothes, right? If I would be so sweaty and that I would have to change either before or after, I would say, okay, that's too much, exertion for Shabbos. So I love the physical, I love walking as a physical activity, and I could walk for miles, and I would walk for miles on Shabbat, even to the point where like I'm tired and I feel like I'm exerting myself, and I sit down. And it's like, wow, that was like a really long walk, but because while I'm doing it, I'm enjoying myself and I can do it without the need to like immediately change out of my clothes because it's just sweating. So that's my, boundary but I know there's some people who really need to like break a sweat or else they don't feel happy. They really feel, so I sort of understand that. Questions, comments about number 6 and number 7? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Shabbaton. That's the Hebrew word for like I don't know how we translate that, like just a day of rest, let's say. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Shabbat is like the now, I don't know, how would translate? It's fine. Let's look it up. Let's see what some people have to say about it. So Leviticus, where is it? It's in, let's see. It's in Parshat Emor. Is it in, let's see, it's Leviticus 23, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
Leviticus 23 is the first. Yeah,
There you go. Let's see. Shabbat. Okay. 6 days or so, do all of your labor, malacha, your creative labor. And the seventh day should be Shabbat, Shabbaton, right? It should be let's see how we translate that. Um, so the translation we have, oops. Um, complete rest. Shabbat, Shabbaton, a Sabbath of complete rest. So, and
How
should
has that translated into what we call a Shabbaton these days?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Shabbaton in contemporary Jewish English means like a Sabbath retreat, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like a big party. Shabbat.
Not as a party. Yeah, I know. Okay, it's like here. I'm here. I'm also gonna here. I can check. Yeah. So looking at the BDB, Shabbaton means Sabbath observance, Sabbatism. 10 times in the Torah, Shabbat, Shabbaton, Sabbath of Sabbatic observance is BDB's translation. Sabbatical years. Okay, I'm gonna look up the Jewish English dictionary and see what this is Professor's Jewish English lexicon. Let's see. It's Shabbaton. Let's see what we got here. Shabbaton, we got it. Shabbaton, a retreat or gathering over Shabbat. Okay, how's that?
That's what we call it.
Um, All right. Yeah. So that's in your it's in the Jewish English the Jewish English lexicon has it. Okay. All right. Let's continue. So any other questions, comments on what we just saw? Okay. Great. Let's continue. Um, all right. Number 8. So transfer between areas on Shabbat. I think we discussed this. So when we went over our 39 categories of labor, it's forbidden to carry something from one domain to another domain, from a private domain to a public domain, from a public domain to a private domain, or within a public domain more than 4 cubits. So we don't carry anything on Shabbat. Um, um, this is sort of different, it's a little bit different than the other melachot. The other categories of labor are transforming objects, whereas carrying isn't really transforming the object, you're just moving it from place to place. So it's a little different than the other prohibited forms of labor, but we understand how, in terms of like interacting with the world, manipulating the world, transforming the world, the things we're not supposed to do on Shabbat, how moving things from place to place is really core to that. However, there is in places where many Jews live, probably most Sabbath observant Jews live now in um, areas that are enclosed in a communal Eruv, we are able to carry within the boundaries of an Eruv. Let me sort of explain how that works. Did we do this already? Did we talk about it? Oh.
In depth.
Oh, fine. So fine. Okay, never mind. Wait, how did it come up before? Oh, it came up because it was a tangent before.
Yes.
Okay.
It was a good tangent.
Fine. So we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do it again. I'll just say, if you enclose it in Eruv, you're allowed to carry on Shabbat. Outside the Eruv, you can't. If there is no Eruv, you can't carry. And there used to be very few of them. Now there are many of them. Most robust Jewish communities are enclosed in an Eruv, a symbolic boundary in which carrying is permitted. And go back to the earlier recording to see the theory and why. Okay, great. All right, moving on.
45 minutes of that.
But yeah, that sounds right. Sounds okay. Okay. Um, if there's no Eruv and you need to, how do people sort of do, you can
Can't you like put it down every four
well, you're not gonna really get any, like, if you have to, like, it's not gonna be right so helpful. I mean, if you accidentally have something in your pocket, you should keep walking, because as long as you don't stop, you haven't put it down. Like, the malacha is lifting it up and putting it down. So if you are walking and you reach into your pocket and, oh my gosh, I left this is tissue in my pocket. So your instinct is to freeze, but don't freeze, because as long as you keep walking, you haven't completed the malacha. So you go back to where you started from and take it out of your pocket there. You've never actually done the full malacha. So that's like one option. Or as you're walking, you could just sort of throw it out of your pocket. So you're not, yeah.
What if you end up going to like a separate private domain?
From a private domain to another private domain with a public domain in between
Right.
is no good. No, doesn't work. Yeah, good question. You can't, or one private to another private, you can't do either. So that's a good question. So if you need to, you can hide a key under your underneath your, what do you call it, your doormat, right? Or inside an apartment building, hide your key inside the little cupboard where they keep the fire extinguisher, things like that. So you don't have to carry it, with you. You can also, they make belts that are designed to hold keys, where the key is an integral and functional part of the belt. So I have a belt to use in college where you would unstrap the buckle, and the key was the tongue of the buckle. So you sort of put the key into the belt, and then you would open the belt and use the key that way. And then, so you're wearing it, not carrying it, because it's functional and part of the belt. You can tie your shoes through can you talk about this? You can, okay, talk about this, fine. You can tie your shoes in such a way that the key is part of the knot, not the knot is around the key and you're carrying the key on your shoelaces, but you put the laces through the key, and then you make your bows and tie them off, and you skip that initial knot. And so the key is actually keeping the laces together.
This is like a very specific question, but what if you have an electric keypad?
So short answer is don't, you find a different way to get it out of your house. Slightly longer version is it's probably okay, because if there's no other option, it's probably okay, because the use of, like, did we talk about electricity?
Yeah.
Okay. The use of electricity is not, according to many opinions, is not per se a violation of any biblical prohibition. If the like, and since electricity didn't exist in the time of the ancient rabbis, it can't be rabbinic prohibition either. So there's like a strong custom not to use electricity on Shabbat from the invention of electricity until today. But we can evaluate each use of electricity in its own right based on what it does. And so Nachman Rabinovich says that an electric door, like the hotel style door opener, like a fob to open and unlock a door, he thinks is fine. Certainly for travelers, he thinks is fine. As opposed to an electric lawnmower, which is a biblical prohibition because it's cutting, no different than any other way you would cut grass. And that being said, we still have this the concept we just mentioned, Shabbaton, right? Like the Shabbat should be a tranquil, restful day, different from the other days of the week. And I would say, not using electronic communications, and not using radios, TVs, computers, phones on Shabbat is the thing that sets the day apart more than any. Like we don't, most of us, shear sheep or winnow or thresh or anything like that. Like the actual 39 categories of labor in the Torah are things that we generally don't do, even on the weekdays. So the refraining from using electronic devices, especially electronic communication devices, is the thing that makes Shabbat particularly distinctive. So, and that, and there is, and that's not just like, oh, it's nice to make the day special. No, that's what the Ramban was talking about when he said there's a Torah obligation. The day should be special and different and tranquil. So I feel like, even though technically there's some leniencies around opening a door, I would say not using a phone, is like really, really important and core to the Shabbat experience. I'd say even maybe this is what Orthodox Judaism has to contribute to the world today, is that we have this practice of not using electronic communications devices for one day a week. I think that's like the thing that's most distinctive about our lifestyle, perhaps. So I don't know. So, and that,
Going back to the
yeah,
key,
yeah,
for men you have a belt. Oh,
yeah,
there are fancy pins for women.
yes, yes, yes. That's right. That's right. Yeah, when we worked at Princeton, they had when we first our first year at Princeton, there was no Eruv, and the door to all if you registered as a Sabbath observant Jew, the outer door to your dorm hall would unlock for 5 minutes every hour. The first 5 minutes of every hour, all the doors would unlock to your dorm. And so you couldn't tell anyone this, but like you would just know to like when you would like go home at night to like time it so that
Be there in the first 5 minutes.
or wait an hour and go back. Yeah. So eventually this was considered not so safe for two reasons. One reason is that if you needed to get into your dorm, you couldn't. Like if somebody was like stalking you or whatever, you couldn't get into your dorm necessarily. And the other is you could get into anyone's dorm. If you knew that there was a Sabbath observant Jew who lives in that dorm, you could get in within the first 5 minutes of the dinner. And if this secret were to spread, then everyone could get into everyone's dorm. And so I think
You all have like one dorm building though that you shared, so it was
you would
like
register as a Sabbath observant Jew, and you would tell them where they lived, and they would add that dorm hall to the system where all the doors were, the entryway would. Maybe it's just your entryway, like because depending on that, but it was still like a.
I mean, yeah.
So I think a student threatened to like go to the papers and like expose the whole system. So the university then said, okay, we'll give out keys to everyone. Every registered Sabbath observant Jew. We'll give out mechanical keys to your dorm. So the men just got Shabbos belts, okay, and we bought them for them actually. But there is no product that we were aware of. We couldn't find any commercial product, belts. We couldn't find any pins. We couldn't find any commercial products that the women could use to carry their keys. And so the university commissioned like this like jewelry store on Nassau Street in downtown Princeton. The university commissioned these like silver necklaces where the key was part of the clasp that kept the necklace closed. And so it was functional. Like it wouldn't close without like you would loop it through the key. But these were very expensive silver necklaces. And like the university was like, and if you lost them, it was like a huge. So the university was like, okay, so the university said, okay, can you maybe like you can build an Eruv and like can you do that? So that's when I learned how to design an Eruv, and Rabbi Jacksher taught me, and I designed an Eruv, and the university committed to building it, and it wasn't built until after like a year or two after I had left Princeton, but they built it and it's there to this day. So that's
Gee.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
how did you sleep at night, knowing that your door is open at night for 5 minutes?
Well, it wasn't the door to your it wasn't the door to your
It's been outside.
no no oh no
Doors.
no sorry
Every door.
no not the door to your no it's just the door to
To the main.
to the building to the dorm hall because once inside the building you could hide your key under the doormat or in you could find a place inside the building to hide the key to your actual room, which is it's just the key to get into the building itself. Okay, yeah.
This makes a lot more sense.
Okay, so
It's less concerning.
System.
yeah.
I mean, I looked at like when I went to college, it was a public campus, so anybody could come on at any point in time, and it wasn't until like in 2021 or 2022 that they started putting like key locks on everything at a certain time because
Yeah, it was a
people
different-
did bad things.
yeah. That's yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's how it goes. Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. Number 9. Boom. Okay. So there's a rabbinic prohibition against walking more than 2,000 cubits in any 2,000 cubits is about 3,000 feet in any direction outside of a town or settlement, sort of settled area. So if you imagine, little village, and you sort of have a perimeter of you make a circle around the houses that are at the edge of the village, you have 2,000 cubits in any direction that you can walk from that village. If within no, 3,000 feet is like a cubit is about 1.5 feet. Yeah. So 2,000 cubits is about 3,000 feet. So it's more than that. If there is another town within the 2,000 cubits, you can walk into that town and you can walk anywhere in that town too. And it's sort of like they merge the two, right? Okay. And so in a place like where we live now, you can walk for miles and miles and miles without leaving the tchum because you're never going to come to the outer limits of a settled area. But in certain parts of the country and in certain parts of the world, you could be in the wilderness. You could be in a place where like you go a couple miles between houses and there's just forests or mountains or whatever. And then you have to worry about this. If you, rent a little cabin in the woods for Shabbat and there's no other house within, or there's one or two houses, there's no settled area to make your perimeter, then you only have 2,000 cubits from your front door of your little rental cabin. So like it's very nice if you think, okay, I'll spend Shabbat up in the mountains. That's beautiful, but you can't take a long walk necessarily, right? If you're the only house there. And I was just in Israel, and you have definitely like in some of the rural parts of the country, you have like clearly defined, towns, little towns, little villages, and they might be separated by, a number of miles of open fields or forests or mountains and stuff, in which case you couldn't walk more than 2,000 cubits and you have to stop and turn back, right? You can't go that far. So for like live in most like heavily like urban or suburban areas of America, this is never something you have to worry about. But if you're out in the woods or in Israel or maybe other parts of the world, traveling, this would be an issue. So, don't go too far, okay, on Shabbat. Questions, comments on that? Okay. So, letter C. So A was the positive obligations of Shabbat that each individual Jew is obligated to do Kiddush and sanctifying the meals over the day over wine and having your Sabbath meals, okay, and enjoying Shabbat and preparing for Shabbat. That's letter A, all of the positive commandments of Shabbat. B is all of the prohibitions of Shabbat that create empty space that you can fill in with, again, like celebration and sanctification and etc. C, there's like a communal aspect of Shabbat, which if you've been to our shul or to a different one, you've seen a little bit of, right? So on Shabbat, we we really make an extra effort to be in shul, right? To come to shul, even people who pray at home during the week will try to come to shul because it's a time we're available to be together. So to pray, you can come. Shul's open every day, and it's great to pray with a minyan. Communal prayer is valuable every day of the week, but we make a special effort on Shabbat and holidays because part of like the what gives the day its character is that we all are convening together. Um, in a special time, and it's a day for community as well. We say Musaf. Musaf is the extra prayer service that we say after the morning prayers. We say another extra additional set of prayers corresponding to the extra sacrifices that were brought in the temple on the Sabbath and holidays. Um, and and so it's like an extra prayerful day as well. So every day we say Shachrit in the morning, and then on Shabbat, after we read the Torah, we then say an additional prayer. That's Musaf. Okay. Again, if you've been to the shul, you've seen that. Okay. And I think you've all seen this. I don't have to like, elaborate too much. And the Torah reading is also like sort of a kind of cornerstone of like what we do when we come together. The entire Torah, the 5 books of Moses, are read over the course of a year. That's the system that we've developed. And so one portion of it is completed in the synagogue every week. It's divided into 7 smaller sections called aliyot. And in that way, again, that's, like a central part of a communal Shabbat experience, that it's not just a day of extra prayer and a of extra convening and being together, but a day also of like extra exposure to Torah and study of Torah, at least in the form of like the Torah portion being read, and we get to listen to it and engage. Okay. Yeah, please. Yeah.
So, in terms of our lesson work as well as reading, what are the expectations around like how much Hebrew we learn?
Sorry, say it one more time.
Expectations around Hebrew.
Expectations for what? For
Like being able to read. Because when I went to the shul like 2 weeks ago, I couldn't. I didn't know what anyone was saying, so I could only read the English translation. But it would have been nice to be able to comprehend.
Yeah.
But it's also like a fully other language.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know like what the expectations, and then everyone I spoke with wasn't a convert. So when I asked them like, how long did it take you to learn Hebrew?
Oh, I see.
Hi, that's me. Okay, it is long. I've been doing it for 9 months now, and I have the alphabet, right? And I have most of the words. I can put them together, and it takes serious time. So I'm working through the reading of it. And so my best recommendation is learn a couple of phrases and listen for them, and then figure out what they look like. And then that is like a way to follow along in certain parts.
Did you use any like
So I have a tutor, but then also I taught myself to begin with first. So she is the one who is teaching me like the pronunciations and things like that. Because in my head it sounded right, but once I said it out loud, she's like, "Let's work on this a little bit." So I was lucky enough to find like a friend. Her mother actually teaches bar and bat mitzvah classes, and so she was like, "Come on, once a week, let's just do this." And so we had been doing that, but we're taking a break right now because I'm moving, and I'm stressed. So I was like, I need a break. But it takes time.
Okay, so it's not because
It's not overnight. No.
Okay,
And you have to dedicate like time, like actually.
Yeah, it's a whole language,
Right
but that's
now,
nice to make.
like I have it with me at all times. I have my flashcards that I
Oh, wow.
need too. Because I'm like extra.
Okay. That's great.
You need.
So like whenever I'm like sitting around or I just have free time, I just like flip through these and just try and do it.
Duolingo is good.
I gotta do it.
Different apps.
Yeah. So the word expectations was sort of threw me off a little, just to sort of share in terms of, well, it depends on what you're asking about, so I'm not sure, but like in terms of
Goals that we should be setting for ourselves.
so I would say, okay, so I think as a requirement or expectation for a conversion process, a convert should be able to read Hebrew. Like not necessarily comprehend very much, but able to read Hebrew. That's like because that's foundation for being able to participate in Jewish life and like engage in Jewish liturgy, and just like foundation, basic of like Torah learning and having that access. So being able to read Hebrew and recite prayers in Hebrew is a expectation for like the conversion process. But God speaks English, and so it's not a expectation for like living Jewishly and engaging in a very serious, intense, intimate way with Judaism. That's not necessary because you can the English translation, good English translation that speaks to you, like that's great. Um, Reading here, it's a phonetic language alphabet. It's like a relatively simple alphabet. It's probably easier to learn to read Hebrew than to read English, like just because it's like there's no, like there are no like letters generally have one, they're only pronounced one way, so it's like not, there aren't like weird, whatever. Like English is like a mix of so many languages that it's like the reading is kind of hard. So just learning how to read Hebrew is, I would say like there are, yeah, I don't know. I get different people. I don't want to like, I've been told like 5 1-hour classes you can get, go through all the letters and learn how to pronounce them and like, start practicing that. So I don't know, it may be less, but maybe a little more for some people, but it's not, it really is an attainable goal, just the basic reading. And then once you have that, beyond that, like the prayer book has an active vocabulary of maybe 200 words. And the entire Torah has a vocabulary of like, I think 6,000 words, which is much less than learning a modern language. So,
Yes, but 200 is something attainable in my head that I feel like.
yeah.
It's a lot of putting the sounds together, and it's not natural. Like for me, it's not natural because I didn't grow up speaking like that. And so getting the pronunciations that way, I think has been the most difficult part in all of it. Like learning the letters, super easy. I got that within like 2 weeks of me doing it on my own. And then you can watch there's so many YouTube videos that like walk you through. There was one, it was a 5-part series that I watched for the first time, and they would teach you like certain words. So I was able to pick up on certain words, and then and part of that he was also teaching about Jewish culture because he was a professor in Israel. So like you can find there's so many different ones. And that was just kind of how I started. And then there's a ton of different books too. And they have a ton of online resources if you buy the book too. And so I found that pretty helpful too. And then there's workbooks and
Workbook.
yes, and there's a ton of them online.
Okay, yeah, and there's workbooks, tutors. There are classes that are offered in various, but we don't offer a Hebrew reading class or a Hebrew class, but there are other synagogues in the area that do, and there are some of the JCC might offer and Duolingo and workbooks and YouTube things. So I would say tutors like so it's
6,000.
yeah, again I think a like a, I mean, it's probably not true anymore, but they used to say like the working vocabulary in English of a college graduate is something like 30 to 50,000 words, in it for English. So the Torah is 6,000 words. Like it's a very, it's just a real, and that's including all the obscure poetic words, just like the main, just like, you give the 200 from the prayer book, add another 200 from the Torah, and you can actually comprehend a fair amount. And then like the words you don't know, you'll learn, whatever. But like you don't even have, I'm saying even without the 6,000 words, if you know the 2,000 most common words in the Hebrew Bible, and I think that will get you, you'll be able to understand 60 to 80% of the verses, and I would imagine. Okay, so.
The letters are one thing, the vowels are something else till you start.
Okay. All right, yeah, okay. He was originally written without vowels. Vowels were invented much later, so it's sort of a, in my video.
Yeah.
Oh, at the very beginning. Oh yeah, I talked about that. That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So so in the meantime, though, I think if you're in shul when the Torah is being read, read along in English, and like I think that's and get from it what you can, and think about it, and right, and so and in time you can learn to read Hebrew. Okay. Anything else to add questions on this? Should we move on? Should we keep going? Should we go a little farther? We have
Another 10 minutes.
okay, let's do it. Okay.
I waited many weeks for this.
I've been gone for 2 weeks, but I wasn't able, but I,
Okay,
So we haven't had the class.
right, because the week, right, because why is that? Because
it was almost a full month,
they were
okay?
yeah.
It's the 12th, okay, and today's the 9th.
There was a reason I was away. There was like some, I think there was like, I was like Martin Luther King Day, and then I was traveling for another month, whatever. I wasn't around on Monday, so sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Apparently that's great. It's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. Okay. Roman numeral three, holidays. Okay. So okay. So once we've talked about Shabbat, holidays are a little bit different. Um, so I have here sanctity of time. Okay. So the holiness of time in the Torah is a partnership between God and humanity, insofar as the Torah delineates, God tells us the days on the calendar that are special natures, that are sacred in one way or the other, that we observe as special days. But God also, in Exodus 12, hands over to us a role to play in establishing how that works. And that's really through the mechanism of the sanctification of the new moon. Okay. God says to Moses, chapter 12, and Aaron, this sign, this crescent moon in the sky, this is what it's going to look like when it's the first of the month. And this was understood to mean that we, eventually the court in the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem would hear testimony from witnesses that they saw the crescent in the sky the night before, and they would say, okay, it's the first of the month. Did we talk about this? Yet? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so and in Leviticus 23, it even says these are the holidays, Midei Hashem, Asher Tikru Otam, that you shall declare them in their season. Meaning, God says, okay, here's the calendar, but you're the one who's going to declare them because it depends on the court saying this is the first of the month. Okay, if this is the first of the month, then Passover is the 15th of the month. But that only gets set in motion by the court declaring this is the first one. Now, thousands of years ago, we actually abandoned the system and went to a fixed calendar. But even so, the fixed calendar was established by us. We set the fixed calendar, and so we're the ones determining how many days in the month, and therefore the holidays are this partnership between God giving us the dates and us deciding what date it is, okay, by our observations of the moon. The reason why there's a need for some human involvement is because the moon's revolution around the Earth, which is what a month is, right, is not evenly divisible into days. Days in a month is not a rational number because there is actually no inherent or actual relationship between the revolution of the moon around the Earth and the Earth's rotation on its axis. And so it's about 29 and a half days in a month. Okay. So, which means that if you're setting up a calendar, you can have alternations of 29 and 30-day months, which is what we do. But our fixed calendar is based on that kind of cycle. But before it was a fixed calendar, they would just look in the sky. And if you saw the moon, it'd say, okay, it's the first of the month. And if not, they'd wait another day. And that would be the first of the month because months can either have 29 or 30 days. And that would be determined by whether or not witnesses came and saw the moon in the sky. If it was cloudy, okay, I guess it could be a 30-day month. No witnesses could come and see the moon. Okay. If they saw the moon, then that would be the first of the month.
It was, she's Chinese, that it was the same as their calendar, but it's not.
No,
Okay.
no, yeah. I don't know that much about the Chinese calendar, but it's a different calendar. Yeah. It's because it's actually, we'll get there in letter B because it's actually a intercalculated calendar because it's a solar lunar intercalculated mixed hybrid calendar. So it's different from the Islamic calendar, different from the Chinese calendar. Okay.
Passover has to be in the spring, so that's what, yeah.
All right, we'll get there. Yep, that's B6. Okay, we'll get there. All right. Okay. So each day is so each day is so this nature of days, just as Shabbat is a special identity, like not all time is the same. Shabbat is a special character. So the same is true of the holidays. And this means that time, the Jewish conception of time is like it's like a spiral, not linear. It's not like we go from A to B, we come around again, right? That every like Passover is the season of liberation. Rosh Hashanah is this day of renewal. Okay, like Shavuot is when we accept the Torah, but it's not like we're not commemorating something in the past. We're like identifying with that spiritual capacity of the given date each year. So it's like a spot. It comes around to Passover again. It comes around to Shavuot. It comes around to Rosh Hashanah again, and every time it does, like we connect to and inhabit that distinct and unique and special time that is there. Okay, like time is not. It's not like a like time's a quality, not just a quantity. And so, like the Jewish concept of time is that has that cyclical nature, but maybe it's a spiral because it's also we're also moving through history from creation, revelation, redemption as this arc of history from creation to revelation to redemption, but with these spirals, okay? Because each time the date rolls around the calendar, like once again we're experiencing that distinct spiritual characteristic of that time. Okay. And we experience it, right? The rabbis teach us, "Chai down the road at Atzmo." Like everyone should see himself as though if he or she individually left Egypt. Okay, that's how we celebrate Passover by like connecting. Like I see myself as though I'm leaving Egypt today. Um, so which is different from historical memory. It's about actually reliving because it is the 15th of Nisan. It is the time of redemption right now and freedom, and that's what we're connecting to. So that's the sort of the piece of like this the sanctity of time. The time is qualitatively different one time from another, and not just in a way that is quantifiably different. Okay. Letter B, we talked about this, new moon, right? Okay, used to be originally the court would designate a new moon. Uh, what would they do to then share that information? They had signal fires. They would have fires on the tops of mountains to spread the word. Okay, let's say witnesses come to the temple, they come to the Sanhedrin, they say, last night we saw a sliver of moon in the sky. They say, great, today's the first of the month. That means Passover's in 2 weeks. We have to let every Jew in the world know. And so they would light bonfires on the top of hills, and then you would using those kind of signal flares. If you in the Lord of the Rings movie, they have that, right? You know the scene? Okay. I can't show you on the computer because it'll I got into trouble last time I tried to show you a video clip because YouTube will if I show you a piece of copyrighted material and a recording and then it will YouTube won't let me upload it to the video. So after we stop the recording, I can show you the scene if you don't remember it. But this is what we did, okay? This is how we spread the information at the calendar. But that system broke down because the Samaritans wanted to mess with us and they would light their own fires to confuse things. And so that system broke down. And so the practice developed to celebrate 2 days of the holiday in the diaspora because just to be case because they couldn't find out. Like 2 weeks was not enough time for word to get from Jerusalem all the way to Babylonia. And so they just developed, or even Syria. And so the practice developed, we'll just do 2 days in case, right? If today is Rosh Chodesh, then 15 days later is the first day of Passover. And if tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, then 16 days from now is the first day of Passover. And so outside of Israel, Passover is a 2-day holiday on the 15th and 16th of Nisan, whereas in Israel, they celebrate only on the 15th of Nisan because word can spread. In a small country, you have plenty of time to spread information in a reliable way without interference. And so that is to this very day. Outside of Israel, we celebrate all the biblical holidays for 2 days. In Israel, they're celebrated for one day only. All right, let's pause here and we'll start at number 4 next class, okay? All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.